Good evening and welcome to the Judicial Candidate Forum. This event is hosted by the League of Women Voters of Broward County. My name is Monica Elliott and I am president of our local league. I will be the timekeeper and the controller of the mute button. The moderator for this evening is Ruby Green, who is also a league member and co-chair of our Criminal Justice Committee. And for those of you who are live right now, I want to make sure you know about a program September 28th that Ruby and Narnik Pierre Grant have put together about fentanyl. One pill will kill. And that program is going to be next Wednesday, September 28th, and it's at 7 p.m., correct?
6
p.m., sorry, I'm glad I asked.
No, you're good.
So this is a really, really important topic. So just look at the League's website and you'll be able to find the link to register for that. So the League of Women Voters was formed 102 years ago, just before women obtained the right to vote in August 1920. We are a nonpartisan political organization with the mission of making democracy work. We have never endorsed a party or a candidate in our 102-year history. Behind me, you will see a banner promoting the League's vote411.org website. At this website, you will find information provided by the candidates and their answers to written questions the League has asked, and all the judicial candidates have responded to our questions. Now, don't go there just yet. The site is scheduled to go live on September 21st. We've got a couple more days. So on the ballot for November 8th, there are 3 judicial runoff races. There's 2 races or groups for circuit court and 1 race or group for county court. You will vote for 1 person in each group. For tonight, we will begin with candidates in circuit court group 51, followed by circuit group 23. And then we will move on to county group 15. For tonight's forum, each candidate will have 1.5 minutes to provide a self-introduction. This will be followed by 5 questions where each candidate will have 1 minute to respond. After question 3, we will have a lightning round of questions where the candidates can provide either yes or no answers with an explanation if required. And then we will conclude with each candidate providing a 1.5 minute closing statement. I will hold up a yellow star as a 10-second warning for the candidates. And then I have a stop part whenever it's time to conclude. And then remember, I have control of the mute button, but I know with these candidates, that is not going to be an issue. So I will now turn it over to Ruby Green, who will be the moderator for the evening.
Hi, good to see you both. And I just want to say congratulations for you making it to the November 8th elections. For those of you who are watching on Facebook or YouTube or wherever you may be, this is the Judicial Candidate Forum for Circuit Court Group 51. Once again, Circuit Court Group 51. Throughout the forum, I'm going to be announcing your names because we got a lot of feedback, and it's good that we were announcing your names last time and they were able to listen audio and they were able to determine, who was saying what. So if I mess up your names, just let me know how to actually pronounce it. I don't think I know you both, so I don't think I'm going to mess it up, but let's just begin with your self-introductions, 1 minute each, and we're going to start with Ms. Hamilton.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you, Monica and Ruby, for the opportunity to be part of an organization that for over 100 years have made this opportunity available to women. I want to start by thanking Broward County and this wonderful organization for your vote in the primary election that has given me this opportunity to be here with you again as I make my way to the general election. As you know, it is important now than ever that we make the right choice as to those who we are electing to rule over our communities and our people. I am Tamar Hamilton, and as a candidate for Circuit Court Judge, this has been one of the most meaningful journeys that I have taken in my life. As I've been journeying through Broward County, I've had the opportunity to meet many of you. I've attended many of the HOA meetings, organizational meetings, and through the continued seminars that I continue to educate the community, I've heard and I've seen many of the developments, the concerns, and the issues that our community are dealing with. And as a solo practitioner, I have developed the characteristics. You have made me who I am. And I believe I am the circuit court judge you are looking for to serve you. So please vote Tamar Hamilton in this upcoming election. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hamilton. Ms. Mastorigo, you're up.
Thank you, Ms. Green. Thank you for pronouncing my name so beautifully. I want to thank you for having this at 5:30. For those of you who can tell, I am sitting in my car. I am in the parking lot for Nova Law School because on Monday nights, I teach trial advocacy to students from 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock. So I have been practicing now for 23 years. I have been in the courtroom for most of those 23 years in the public sector. I have been giving back to my community since the day I started in high school. I have always been involved in community organizations as well as sports, then became a coach for sports for both of my wonderful children who are now 13 and 9. I have been very involved in the minority communities and in the legal community. So I continue to do that throughout my years. I am all about public service, and that's why I want to continue my career in public service as your next circuit court judge. I can't say enough. I love being in the courtroom. I have seen the good, I have seen the bad, I have been through it. So I have the knowledge, not only legal, but also personal. Being an immigrant to this US, you are looking at the American dream. I came at 8 knowing my numbers and colors, and look how far I have made it. So I'm asking you for your continued support and already thank all those thousands of people who voted for me in the primaries and helped me get through that finish line on November 8th. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Ms. Mastorigo. Okay, so now we're going to get to the question parts, okay? Both of you will answer the same 5 questions and you will have 1 minute each to answer them. However, there are going to be some questions that we did ask you before. However, survey says that the community wanted to hear your answers again. So we're going to start with question number 1. Ms. Hamilton, you're up first. And the question is as follows. What will you do to improve how the 17th Circuit deals effectively with racial, ethnic, and gender bias, both in and outside the courtroom?
Thank you. My role as being part of the 17th Circuit, and even now as an attorney, what I do now to bridge that gap is be that example. We must first become what we want others to become, and that is my belief. So I am the first example of how I treat my clients, how I treat my students as an adjunct law professor at St. Thomas University School of Law, how I treat my family, how I treat my staff is an example of how I will treat those that will come before me as a circuit court judge in Broward County. And I believe our commitment, our motto is to faithfully and impartially uphold the law. I believe this is what Broward County has been asking for, an opportunity to be served without regards to their race, without regards to gender, without regards to the size of their pocket. Thank you.
Thank you, and you're right on time. Ms. Mastorigo.
Ms. Green, could you please repeat the question? I just want to
Surely.
answer it correctly.
Yes, no problem. What will you do to improve how the 17th Circuit deals effectively with racial, ethnic, and gender bias, both in and outside the courtroom?
Thank you. I have been involved in helping that and that change in the community and in the courtroom too. For 5 years, all I handled were Spanish-speaking clients. So clients that would get charged with a criminal case who did not speak English well. I noticed firsthand how minorities in that courtroom do not get treated correctly. whether it is African Americans or Hispanics. The disparity in sentences in the criminal side is not shocking anymore, which is sad that we see it so often every single day, that those who have money are able to bond out quickly, are able to get supervision and probation instead of prison because they're able to pay off victims much quicker. I want it to be an example as a judge that all judges should be seeing a person and not a race, not an age, not a sex. And I've done that in defending people who have been charged criminally in the past in that courthouse. And I challenge any of you to walk into those criminal courtrooms, because it is very sad, the minorities that you see in the box. So I will continue to work towards that like I have been in my 23 years as an attorney. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, question number 2. Briefly describe your philosophy of the judicial role, the qualities that are most important for the role, and the greatest challenges to the role. And we're going to start with Ms. Masterigo.
Okay, I think the biggest challenge is to be patient and to listen. I think a lot of our judges are not patient enough with people that come in front of them. I love the system, I'm in the system, but most people that walk into that courthouse do not love it and are going through tough times. And I think you need a lot of patience and you need to learn how to listen. There's too many litigants that walk into that courthouse that don't have attorneys, that don't get heard. And I've seen it in criminal court, I've seen it in civil court, I've seen it in family law court. So the biggest challenge that I want to help in, and that I have learned through my 23 years of litigation and having clients, is you need to learn how to be patient and how to listen, so that people, when they walk out of that courthouse, actually feel like they had their day in court. Because whether you agree with our system or not, it is one of the best in the whole wide world. And you need to be giving people that chance to actually be able to get their side heard in court. I have a little timer going on my phone as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Hamilton?
Thank you. Answering, looking at the judicial role, qualities, and greatest challenges. The role of the judiciary branch, again, is for you to faithfully and impartially uphold the law. But in order to do that, it comes with certain qualities. And those qualities don't come by sitting on the bench. It comes by during the years, your years of practice, your years of dealing with people in the community, the temperament that you develop. Now, as a solo practitioner, I believe over the last 8 years of practice and my 16 years of serving Broward County in the legal profession, 8 years as a paralegal, 8 years as an attorney, I have developed the temperament, the patience, the management skills, the understanding that is needed to serve in this judiciary branch. And our greatest challenge is our ability to manage the caseload that comes before us, to not frustrate the legal professions, but use the tools to make it a great experience. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, question number 3. How do you deal with difficult people, including peers, lawyers, clients, litigants, defendants in your courtroom? And we're going to start with Ms. Hamilton.
How do we deal with difficult people? We have difficult people in every walks of life, and I am sure the courtroom will be no different. How we deal with difficult people, we manage. We do understand the role in which we sit, and as a judge, your role is to manage your courtroom. You have to determine the temperament that happens in your courtroom, and you may not be able to please everyone, but it's important that you stand up to represent the matters that you are called to represent the clients on, and ensure that the courtroom runs smoothly. As I currently do in my law practice, in dealing with probate, I deal with multiple parties of all walks of life. In dealing with real estate transactions, I have handled thousands of real estate transactional and litigation matters that involves multiple parties that requires dealing with people on both sides. And through that, you develop the temperament to hold your peace, treat others respectfully despite their difficulty. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Masterigo.
How do you deal with difficult people? And it's in all walks of life. I have been an assistant public defender out of my 23 years. I have been an assistant public defender for 17 of them. I have dealt with people in their worst moments of life who unfortunately take it out on us. And I have always stayed professional and I have always calmed them. Now, as a supervisor, I deal with complaints. And it's cute because I have the nickname of the family whisperer, because I tend to calm people down with my explaining of what's going on. And that's what people want to know. They want to know what's going on. They want to know that you're listening. I have always maintained my professionalism. That's why I am the recipient of the 2020 Lynn Fudge Professionalism Award. I was nominated on by fellow attorneys, and it was voted on by a group of attorneys and judges. I am the youngest to receive it and is meant for attorneys that have been practicing over 20 years. I also used to sit on the professionalism panel. We would receive complaints about attorneys that were not behaving properly. So I have the experience of having to deal with not only difficult attorneys, but clients, and I've been able to do it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. You both are good with this time thing. All right, so we're going to hit the lightning round now. So only answer if your answer is yes. So raise your hand if your answer is going to be yes. Have you or are you in the process of being disciplined in one form or another by the Florida Bar? No one. All right. Do you have experience with criminal cases? Ms. Masterigo. Do you have experience with family law cases? Both Ms. Masterigo and Ms. Hamilton. Do you have experience with juvenile cases, either dependency or delinquency? Ms. Masterigo. Do you have experience with mental health cases? Ms. Masterigo. Okay. Question number 4. That was the end of the lightning round, by the way. How would you prepare yourself to handle cases involving unfamiliar areas of the law? And that's going to go to Ms. Masterigo first.
And this is a minute again?
Yes, a minute again. Sorry.
It's okay. I started off as an assistant public defender, and after 4 years, I left and I went into the private sector. And I learned family law, and I learned personal injury, and I learned civil, and I learned real estate. I have no problems learning new areas of law. Knowing the criminal side is knowing my procedures for trial, because I have had over 50 jury trials and over 50 bench trials. So I know those. I was so successful in family law just from knowing those basics of procedure and objections and fundamental rules in trial from my criminal side. So I don't mind learning any new area of law. Part of what I do now in training is I'm constantly on the Florida Supreme Court and the 4th DCA Court of Appeals, where I am constantly looking up new case law and keeping up with it, because it's my job now to train attorneys within the office. And so I got to be up to it. So I will learn whatever I need to learn, but I know all the basics, which are the important thing on how to conduct a trial and how to conduct procedures in court. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Hamilton.
Thank you. Now, as a civil law practicing attorney, I've had the wonderful opportunities of applying our rules of evidence, our Florida rules of procedure in multiple situations involving families, probate, real estate, transactional and litigational matters. And the wonderful opportunity of teaching the law keeps me refreshed. So knowing the law, being able to apply the law in any area is a basic that I do and most lawyers know. And I do understand our court system also has preparations for preparing us for the areas in which we will go by giving us mentoring. We also will attend judicial college. So if we're entering the judiciary system in an area that you may not have practiced or is not your expertise, our chief judge always ensures that we are prepared with a mentor and the proper tools to make sure we're able to serve our community well. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. The last question of the night for you both. What one aspect from your personal background and one aspect from your professional background do you feel qualify you to be a judge, and why?
Who's
And
going
we're going to start with Miss Hamilton first. That was
Thank you.
yeah, I know you guys were like, why are they so quiet?
We were being polite.
All right. From my personal background, migrating here from Jamaica over 23 years ago really opened up. It was an eye-opening for me. And migrating here to Florida and seeing the diversity of the community here in Broward County, where I've lived for over 23 years, has really made me who I am, learning the history of our community with my two children as they were raised in school, about the patience, the fights that had to be won, that has given me the opportunity to stand in the position that I stand today. And despite those fights, yet we are able to unite. I see such unity in our community. And this unity has really made me a better person, a better appreciation for our community. In my professional life, I've had the opportunity to demonstrate that, to display that. I've had clients from all walks of life, language, color, gender, size of the pocket is never an obstacle. Thank you.
Thank you. Miss Masterigo, last but not least.
Thank you. And my personal is arriving in the US at 8 years old, only knowing my numbers and my colors in English and nothing else. Broward County has changed a lot from that point of where even in my first trial in 1999, I was advised to not show up to a jury trial in pantsuit as a female. That has changed a lot. So personal and professional, it has all commingled because I'm always looked at as a Hispanic woman. I cannot tell you how many times I have been asked if I was the court interpreter walking into a courtroom where attorneys were not familiar with me because of the fact that I am a Hispanic woman. In my private life, walking around speaking in Spanish and the discrimination that I have gotten. Broward County has grown a lot, but it has a whole lot more to do with growing. I have learned how to speak up, be professional, be polite in doing, and educating people in Broward County that we still have a long ways to go. So all of that I will bring to the bench, my life experience and my professional experience. And I think that's very important.
Thank you both. Okay, so this is going to be the end of our program. We're going to end with our closing statements. We're going to start with Miss Masterigo, and you have a minute and a half.
So once again, I would like to just remind everybody, I have been practicing for 23 years, and it has all been in the courtroom. I have done over 50 jury trials, and you say, why is that important? Because to attorneys that walk into a courtroom, it's very important for the judge to know the law and to know the procedure so that it doesn't have to be redone again because of a judge misbehaving or misapplying the law. I have the personal experience as well, growing up in this community, always being involved in this community, not only being involved now as a candidate. And I will continue to be involved in this community, from Big Mama and Team of Life to my Hispanic groups, to the school groups of my children, being a past parent resource organization, secretary, treasurer, and president, to being a coach in baseball, basketball, and soccer to my children, and being involved in my church. So all of that and my legal experience is what I'm going to bring to the bench. I purposely waited until I grew enough professionally in order to know everything that I needed to know when I take that bench. So I'm asking for your support, and I'm asking you to vote for Lorena Masterigo on June 8th. Thank you again for this. I'm sorry, November 8th, June passed, November 8th at the general election. It's been that crazy. Thank you again.
Understood. Thank you. Thank you. Miss Hamilton.
Thank you. I am your community lawyer. And that I mean for over 16 years, I have been serving in this community, from closing thousands of transactions to being your attorney during your times when loved ones are mourning and in your times of celebration. And through that, I have developed the passion to continue to serve you, the love for the legal profession, and the need to be the role model that sits as part of their judiciary branch here in Broward County. Being a solo practitioner has made me who I am. The need to educate my community, the need to be out in the community, not just in the courtroom, seeing you, learning more about your issues, researching with you, staying as late as we need to get through that matter. I am that person. Through that, I've developed a heart of compassion, of understanding, and I do have the experience and the legal knowledge to continue to serve you from the bench of Broward County. I believe this is the kind of judge you want to see on the bench. So I'm asking for your vote. Vote by mail, vote early, or vote on November 8th. Please vote for Tamar Hamilton. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. For those of you who are listening at home, this was Circuit Court Group 51. Circuit Court Group 51. My name is Ruby Green. I'm the moderator for tonight. Good luck to you both, Ms. Masarigo and Ms. Hamilton. The election is going to be on November 8th for those of you who are watching at home. And I'm going to turn it back over to our president, Monica Elliott.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
If Lorena and Tamara will leave, I will bring in the next two candidates. Okay. And Senator Farmer, if you'll make sure that your microphone is working, and then we will begin.
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
And Tanya, I think we're okay, but just to be sure, one more time.
Sure. Hi, Monica. How are you?
Okay, so I will turn this back over to Ruby, and this is Circuit Court Group 23.
Yes, hello. There's no need for me to repeat it, but this is Circuit Court Group 23. For those of you who may have just jumped on and didn't hear what our Madam President said, my name is Ruby Green. I'm going to be the moderator for this evening. And we're going to start. We're going to start with your 1-minute introductions. And up first is Senator Gary Farmer.
It's 1.5 minutes.
Oh,
to
yes,
start.
1.5 minutes. We're giving you some more time this time.
Hey, we'll take that extra 30 seconds, no doubt about it. I think
We know how
Tom
you
and I both
lawyers
agree
like to
with that.
talk.
It's hard. It's hard for somebody who's been in politics to do anything in 90 seconds. But thank you very much, Ruby and Monica, and all the members of the League of Women Voters. When you think about entities that have made such an impact in Florida over the years, the League of Women Voters is certainly right up there at the top of the list. So really appreciate this opportunity. I am Gary Farmer. I know so many of you as your state senator for the last 6 years for Senate District 34. To just sum it up in a nutshell, I get asked so often, why am I running for judge now? You know, I ran for the Senate and I went to Tallahassee to try to help people. And the environment has just become so toxic and nasty that I just cannot do that anymore. And frankly, the Florida legislature doesn't seem that concerned as a body about helping people. This last session was nothing but red meat politics and things that really weren't going to help Floridians' lives. And so I'm going back to my roots as a 31-year attorney in the state of Florida, born and raised in Broward County. I've lived 51 of my 58 years right here in Broward County. And I know that when I'm elected judge in this county, I'm going to be able to help people each and every day in my courtroom. The truth of the matter is, the court system is most likely to impact people's lives on a daily basis, much more likely than the Senate or the House or the governor or anybody like that. And you know, I've got the experience, broad experience, both as an appellate practitioner, as somebody who's tried cases, as a lawmaker myself, and just somebody with the compassion and caring about this county and about its residents. And so I'll get a chance to talk about myself a little bit more as we go on, but that's why I'm running, and I look forward to this discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Farmer. Miss Tanya Williams.
Yes, thank you so much for having us again. I actually really love this forum because the questions are awesome and it's very well thought out. So thank you for that. I want to thank everyone who voted for me, and now I'm in the runoff. And I am Tanya Maria Williams, and I am running to be your next circuit court judge. Some of you have already heard the story. For those who haven't, I was 11 years old when a judge looked at me and my family and told us that we could not have my father for Christmas. And it was the moment that changed my life. But here's what's awesome about it, even though it was one of the darkest moments of my life. That 11-year-old girl is on your ballot. That is amazing to me, because that is what our country is about. It's about being able to realize a dream and reach for a goal that you never thought was possible. Growing up in Brooklyn, I came from a building where the owner of it was on America's Most Wanted. So I built my life teaching women to understand you're not where you come from, and you can be whoever it is you want to be. So I'm asking for your vote so that that little 11-year-old girl can sit and serve Broward County, and the next little 11-year-old girl can see herself reflected on that bench. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we're going to move on to the questions. You will have 1 minute each. You will answer the same 5 questions. The first question goes to Mr. Farmer first. What will you do to improve how the 17th Circuit deals effectively with racial, ethnic, and gender bias, both in and outside the courtroom?
Well, I mean, the answer to that is pretty simple. Don't consider any of those factors. They're irrelevant. I know that we do have systemic problems. There's no question about that. But I spent my life fighting for fairness and equality and justice for everybody. My law firm website for 15 years has been Path to Justice. I've been endorsed by the most diverse group of entities. I don't think there's anybody who's ever run for judge who's endorsed both by the police and by Ben Crump, noted civil rights attorney, endorsed by the firefighters, the unions, all that. And they've seen me in Tallahassee and how I always give a voice to the voiceless. That's frankly why I ran for office. It's why they gerrymandered my seat and tried to get me out, because the special interests and the lobbyists in Tallahassee didn't like that I put factors like that aside and only considered what's fair for everybody. So as a judge, I'm not going to see color, I'm not going to see race, I'm not going to see religion, I'm not going to see sexual preference or identity. I'm going to rule based on the law.
Thank you. Ms. Williams.
Can you repeat the question one time? I just want to make sure I answer it appropriately.
Yes, most definitely. What will you do to improve how the 17th Circuit deals effectively with racial, ethnic, and gender bias, both in and outside the courtroom?
So here we have to take a lesson from Michael Jackson, right? You have to start with the man in the mirror. Sitting on that bench, it's always interesting to me when people say they don't see color, because that's not possible. We have to see color. What you have to do is not have that impact your opinion. We all have biases. So the first thing you have to do is check your own biases. Be aware of them, be cognizant of them, understand how they affect you, and then work like hell, to make sure they don't influence your decisions. Judges are still human, they're still people. So we have to start with us and then branch out. Be aware, continue to educate ourselves on implicit bias, because it does creep into everything. It's based on our lived experiences. It doesn't make you right or wrong, it makes you human. So we have to be aware of that, challenge that, and then from that position, ensure that you are being fair and equitable in every circumstance.
Okay, thank you. Question number 2. Briefly describe your philosophy of the judicial role, the qualities that are most important for that role, and the greatest challenges to the role. We're going to begin with Ms. Williams first.
Okay, so the qualities for that role should be compassion, objectivity, and equity. you should be able to do what the law requires you to do and still be calm. You have to be objective about what you're doing so that no one is being treated unfairly. And you have to make sure that you are applying the law in a way that is equitable. Equitable and equal are actually two different things. And it's understanding that difference that I think makes a difference. The challenge, I think, for judges are understanding that sometimes your hands are tied, in that it's the duties of the lawyers to present the case. And sometimes your hands are tied and you have to do what the law requires you to do, even though as a lawyer, you might have done something different, or as a person, you might want something different, might want a different outcome. But as a judge, you're required to do what's right and required to follow the law, regardless of how you feel about it.
Thank you. Mr. Farmer.
Well, certainly, compassion, fairness, the recognition and application of the fundamental rule that all are equal before the law are things that have to be at the forefront of a judge's mind in any case that they handle. But your question always asks what characteristics of a judge are important. And I think you start with judicial temperament, the ability to deal with sometimes unpleasant people, sometimes angry people, sometimes sad people, sometimes scared people. So your temperament has to be very even so that people really feel that things are being fairly and equally applied in the courtroom over which you're presiding. You've got to have legal ability and talent. Experience matters. Over my 31 years, I've not only tried close to 50 cases, jury trials, way more bench trials. I've also been board certified in appellate work. I've argued in every appellate court in the state and in the Florida Supreme Court many times. I think that combination of skills and experience makes me uniquely qualified, because the thing we need is fast rulings. And so you got to be able to know the law, apply the law, write in order, and get a decision out.
Okay, you ended that pretty well. I was about to stop you.
You were worried about me bringing that home, Ruby, weren't you?
I was worried. All right.
Monica
So
didn't want to have to start waving the red sign, you know.
We love keeping on time. We love it here. Question number 3, and I know some of these questions you may have heard them before, maybe the last time that we had our forum, but the community wanted to hear your answers again for some of these questions. But question number 3 is, how do you deal with difficult people, including peers, lawyers, clients, litigants, and defendants? And we're going to start with Mr. Farmer first.
Yeah, I think, the main thing is patience. You've got to channel your inner Zen quite often, have those moments, in your head, because as I just alluded to a little bit in my last answer, people that come before you, most of them are probably nervous and afraid. Secondly, they can be under a great amount of stress. They're fearful of what the outcome is going to be, how it's going to impact their lives, whether the case is criminal, civil, family law. We do it every day, but it's not something that people are commonly familiar with. So I think patience is just the most key attribute. There's that old saying that we've heard, there's a reason God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth. I think that's especially important for judges. You've got to listen. And when I say listen, it's not about just hearing people. It's about listening to people. And so, combine patience with a lot of listening, add in the compassion. And I think by doing those things, you can tone down when things get a little heated or people are being disruptive.
Thank you, Ms. Williams.
So this is one of those questions that we should essentially all agree, because you need patience. You have to listen. I think you have to start from a place of, this is not about me, and understanding that frustration can be coming from that person because of the situation they're in, because this is their worst day. For lawyers and judges, this is us going to work when we walk into the courtroom. For that person walking in as a litigant, it's their worst day. And I think if you start from that standpoint where this is not about me, This person is upset, but they're not really upset with me. Even if it is being aimed at me, it's just they're frustrated and don't know exactly how to communicate that frustration. And they're doing it to the best of their ability. So the first thing is, don't take it personal. The second thing is, do what's right and try to explain. I had a client that others were having a difficult time explaining to her why she needed to settle. I was able to do that because I took the time to understand where she was coming from, the pain she was feeling, and why it was personal to her, and then was able to communicate with her what needed to be done. Same thing you have to do as a judge.
Well, thank you. Okay, so now we're on to the lightning round. For the next set of questions, simply raise your hand if the answer is yes. I will, because there are going to be people who are listening audio wise, I'm going to be saying who answered yes to the question. So let's going to start with question number 1. Have you or are you in the process of being disciplined in one form or another by the Florida Bar? No one. Do you have any experience with criminal cases? Ms. Williams and Mr. Farmer. Do you have experience with family law cases? Ms. Williams and Mr. Farmer. Do you have experience with juvenile cases, either dependency or delinquency? Ms. Williams and Mr. Farmer. Do you have experience with mental health cases? Ms. Williams and Mr. Farmer. All right, question number 4. This is going to be the 1 minute. You're back to 1 minute, okay? How would you prepare yourself to handle cases involving unfamiliar areas of the law? We're going to start this question off with Ms. Williams.
So it's like anything else that we have to teach ourselves as lawyers. For example, right now, I do first party property insurance on the plaintiff side. Other than my time as a foreclosure plaintiff's lawyer, I usually did defense work. So I had to learn plaintiff's work and I had to learn first party property. There are ways for us to educate ourselves and understand what the law is and how it works. We also have Judicial College and we have a number of resources that are available to us. I think the key is understanding we don't know it all and accepting that and understanding that this is continuously a learning process if you want to do it properly. You're also learning yourself, not just the law, because this is a different position. You're now in a different position than you were in however many years, whether it's 20 years for me, which my 20th anniversary is tomorrow, I'm excited, or the 30 plus years that Mr. Farmer has been a lawyer. We're going to now learn a position as a judge. So you want to make sure that you're constantly educating yourself.
Thank you, Mr. Farmer.
Yeah, the thing about law school that makes just a legal degree so versatile and so important is the analytical thinking that it teaches you, the ability of analytics. And we're always, as judges, even whether you're a new judge or a sitting 20-year judge, you're always going to be faced with new fact patterns, new laws. The legislature is passing new laws all the time. And you've just got to have the ability to process and to read and to become familiar with those new laws, take advantage of whatever resources that are out there. The internet can be a great thing and it can be a bad thing sometimes, but it does give you the resource to research. And so it really kind of comes back to not only having the intellectual ability and capacity and experience, but then the work ethic to dive in and familiarize yourself and admit to yourself that, oh, this is an area I don't really know a lot about. I better do some reading and get caught up.
Okay, thank you. All right. Last but not least, question of the ending of our session. What one aspect from your personal background and one aspect from your professional background do you feel qualify you to be a judge and why? Mr. Farmer, you're up first.
Okay. Well, going back to when we were talking about fairness and the influence of racial bias and things of that nature, when I was a teenager, I was a victim with my friend, really, of racial profiling. I was in a Black neighborhood in a new shiny car, and we had just finished basketball, and we were pulled over by some police that were dishonest and dishonorable police, and they fabricated a whole claim against my friend and me. And we had to go to court, and not only did the judge immediately dismiss the case, he really chastised the officers and the prosecutor. That taught me at a really early age about the existence of inequality and racial bias, and of course that made it easy to understand gender bias and whatnot. As far as legal experience, I guess, it's hard to say because I've handled so many diverse cases, which have taught me that you really have to look into the facts. Handling the off-label marketing cases where we recovered billions of dollars for the state from the pharmaceutical industry's misdeeds and misappropriation of people's personal health information. I think that taught me how far and how deep and how dark people will go sometimes. And you have to be ready to fight that.
Okay, thank you. And Miss Williams?
One more time. Sorry, the question.
That is perfectly fine. What one aspect from your personal background and one aspect from your professional background do you feel qualify you to be a judge, and why?
So, as I've always said, I'm the daughter of a defendant. And it's something that gave me a different perspective on the courtroom. It gave me a perspective at a very young age as to how a judge's words can really affect someone's life. As a former prosecutor, as an assistant state attorney, I have held someone's life in my hands. That's what prosecutors do on a daily basis. And I think it's a sobering thing when you understand what you're doing, when you understand how much power you have to affect someone's life. And I think based on where I've come from and what I've seen and the cases I've handled, it gives me a different outlook on the courtroom. It's not just business as usual. It's not just another day at work. It is a moment in time that will have a lasting effect. And I think that more than qualifies me to be your next circuit court judge.
Okay, thank you both. We're going to now move into our closing statements. We're going to begin with Ms. Williams. You have 1.5 minutes.
So every time we have to do our closing statement, I try to figure out what exactly is it that I want to say to the community of Broward County. And what I really want to say is, allow me to represent you because I am you. Allow me to represent you because I am that daughter of a defendant. I am that daughter of a single mother. I am that person that refused to let where she came from dictate where she's going. I ask Broward County residents to see me as the change they want to see me as the reflection of the community, and be ambassadors for diversity, be ambassadors for change, and darken that circle next to my name, not just because this is a Herculean feat for me to even be here in the first place with everything that I have been through in my life, but because it's time for our voice to no longer be muted. It's time for our voice to be clearly heard. It's time for our voice to show up in full technicolor and be represented on the bench so that everyone that is a part of this community can feel heard and seen.
Thank you. And Mr. Farmer.
Yes, thank you. I want to, again, in case I run out of time at the end, I'll start with thanking the League of Women Voters for putting on this forum, enabling your members to learn about us. One thing I've come to find and is so true, so much more so than I knew, the lack of knowledge by voters with judicial candidates is widespread. And so this is a great forum. I was born in Holy Cross Hospital. I went to Little Flower Elementary. I graduated from South Broward High School. I've lived here for 51 years. I've been registered to vote here since I was 18 years old, and have been doing so all my life. I didn't just register in Broward in June. I have handled some of the most complex cases in Florida history: the butterfly ballot matter, the false claims against the government I talked about a minute ago against the pharmaceutical companies, I have served this community in a variety of capacities in consumer protection organizations. My law firm was voted the Pro Bono Law Firm of the Year 5 years ago because we represented so many people for free. And as I said earlier, I ran for office for one thing and one thing only, to give back. Not for a pay raise, not for a salary, to give back to the community. And I've done that all my life, whether it's the turkey giveaways we've been doing for 12 years in poor neighborhoods, backpack giveaways we've done for school kids going back to school, serving people who couldn't afford lawyers. It's what I've done. And over those 31 years, as I said, I've had diverse experience in the community, in the courtroom. I am the most qualified person running in this race, and I want to give back to this community even more, and I want to help people every day. And that's why I'm asking for your support for me to become the next circuit court judge in Broward County.
Okay, thank you both. I also want to congratulate you for making it to the November 8th elections. I understand that this is an awesome thing. So once again, just congratulations from the league. And my name is Ruby Green. For those of you who are at home, this was Circuit Court Group 23. Circuit Court Group 23. They are on your November 8th ballot. Look out for their names. And I'm just going to turn it over to Monica Elliott, our league president.
Thank you, everyone. So now we will remove Ms. Williams and Mr. Farmer.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
County candidates. Goodbye. Thank you very much.
Bye. Thank you.
Okay, so before we begin, let's just make sure one more time that the microphones are working.
Hi there.
Good morning, good evening. My mic is working, hopefully.
Okay. Okay, so we are ready now for County Group 15, and I will turn it over to Ruby, our moderator, once again. Thank you.
Yes, hello. How are you?
Doing well, Attorney Green. How are you?
Good. Okay, so those of you who are watching from home, this is our County Court Group 15. Once again, County Court Group 15. We are going to begin with our 1.5 minute self-introductions. We're going to start with Mr. Brown first, actually.
Great. Thank you. Why am I running for County Court Judge? Chris Brown for County Court Judge. I'm running because I believe a county court judge, especially a county court judge, can make a difference in the legal system and our communities. In the legal system, I've had jury trials in county court, circuit civil, federal court. I've argued before the 4th and 3rd DCA, so that's a lot of legal experience. But really what I bring to the bench, what separates me is my personal experience. I've been married to my wife, Mindy Brown, for 37 wonderful years. We've lived in Broward County for 34 years. I raised 3 children, 3 girls in Broward County, the youngest one, special needs child who had severe handicap as far as medical issues. And it taught me the struggle that every family has that they deal with, no matter what circumstance you are. You go through these struggles and you get through it as a family, and you need community support. So I'm very thankful for our community involvement with that. It would let us to get involved with the Make-A-Wish Foundation of South Florida, which helps every child in Broward County, one child at a time. The Special Olympics, which we've big involvement in there too. Handy, Hope South Florida, on and on. That type of community involvement just comes from the heart. It's who I am. It's who we are. Me and my wife are helpers. We love helping people. We've done that. It shows up in everything we do. We do not have to struggle for it. It's not something that we begrudgingly go into the community. We joyfully do that. And I'm very proud to say that I've been enriched by my experiences in my family. I've been taught by my wife, Mindy Brown. I've been taught by my special needs daughter. It was a blessing to me. I hope to bring that to the bench. And thank you very much.
Thank you. Now, Ms. Hyde.
Well, thank you, Attorney Green. Through our American judicial system, we've had many landmark decisions which affect our basic human rights, civil rights, rights to privacy, our voter rights even. And on November 8th, Broward County voters will have the opportunity to elect our local judges. My name is Suzette Hyde, and I'm on your ballot running for Broward County Court Judge in Group 15. With my 23 years of experience as a litigation attorney, 12 years as a business owner, 10 years of experience on the Broward County Court bench, I am prepared to serve. It is my honor to be here with you tonight and the League of Women Voters as you ask questions, as I share with you about my background, my experiences, and my aspirations. I'm encouraged that you choose to be an informed voter. Our court system is not an elite social club. It is a place where everyone belongs and should feel confident that they are going to get a fair decision and a competent decision. So from the immigrant worker to the single parent to the business owner, and even those who are at the mercy of the law, I am confident that we share the same goal, that we seek an independent and diverse judiciary that is striving towards achieving justice for all.
Thank you, Ms. Hyde. All right, we're going to begin with our questions. As a county judge, what will you do to improve how the court deals effectively with racial, ethnic, and gender bias, both in and outside the courtroom? Mr. Brown, you're up first.
Well, thank you. Very good question. One, we all have to deal with that question. In our society, in Broward County, we have a very diverse community, which has enlightened us. We have learned a lot from each other in Broward County. And how that begins is, and this is what I learned from dealing with special needs people and people in need, is you have to see people for who they are. You have to see them. And if you don't see them, you're going to disservice to them. You're bringing disservice to your conversations, everything you do. So you start with that. And when you begin to see people, you start to understand we have much more in common than we have a difference. Okay, I had the honor of visiting a mosque last Friday, and I was warmly welcomed by everyone in that mosque. I was treated fairly, and I believe they saw me for who I was, and I saw them. And I think that type of exchange that you have, where you overcome that. Now, remember, we're all human beings, so we have problems. So we have to recognize when we run into a situation where our bias is taking over and stop that. Obviously, the judge, it's on him to make sure, or her in that courtroom, to make sure there's no bias, to make sure there's no injustice. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Hyde?
I'm glad that you mentioned bias outside of the courtroom, because when it is outside of the courtroom, it is going to come inside of the courtroom. And once it gets inside of the courtroom, the bias doesn't just start at the bench or when the case starts. It starts as soon as you even enter the courthouse. I am sure I'm not the only one, but we've had experiences where we enter the courthouse and people assume who we are based on how we look or how we're dressed or what they perceive about us. And it has to start there. Our judicial system is not just about judges. It's about the entire system, the clerk system, the sheriff's office, which serves. So it starts with education, educating people about different cultures, educating them about how to put aside their differences and to see people as individuals, to see people for what they represent and not so much as what we think in our heads. So it is going to come down to education. And my job is to make sure that there's order and decorum inside of the courtroom and that people are treated fairly.
Thank you, Ms. Hyde. Okay, question number 2. Briefly describe your philosophy of the judicial role, the qualities that are most important for that role, and the greatest challenges to the role. And we're going to start with Ms. Hyde.
Well, the judicial philosophy that I hold near and dear is that our laws are here to keep people safe. However, we have to also give people grace as well. And so being a woman, an immigrant, a single parent who's been involved in this system, I have seen firsthand, experienced firsthand what it is like to be discriminated against. So I have that compassion for people as well, considering that I'm also a family law attorney. I've also had my practice for 12 years. So I know what it's like when people come to court, they're just having a bad day, or they're seeking to exploit the law, or they're not treated fairly. And so they rely on our court system to correct all of those things. So I have that experience where I've been able to show compassion and be able to guide people diligently through the system.
Thank you, Ms. Hyde. Mr. Brown.
Right. My philosophy is the same philosophy that I think everybody in your audience recognizes. They want and expects. They want the opportunity to be heard. They want to be able to present their case, and they want a fair and equal ruling. They want the same law to apply to them as it did to the guy 2 hearings before or 3 hearings after. That's what they expect from the judicial system. And it's got to be in your nature to understand that is the heart of our system. When we have the best system in the world, we actually have very, very talented and very intelligent judges on our bench in Broward County. We should all be proud of that. But what I see in the courtrooms, and I've been a lawyer for 27 years. I've been in the federal courts, I've been in the county court, I've been in the circuit court. And when I see the biggest challenge that courtrooms have, and it's not that we have bad people, we got bad judges or biased people running around saying, I'm going to try to discriminate. It's really complacency. You have 2,000 cases you want to get through. So you stop seeing people, and you see cases. So you have to put people in before process. And that's how you get through it. You have to fight the need to move to the next case and give everybody what they're entitled to. That's my philosophy, and that's why I'm running.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. All right, question number 3. How do you deal with difficult people, including peers, lawyers, clients, litigants, and defendants? Now, some of these questions you may have heard before, but our survey says that the community wants to hear your answers to these again. Once again, how do you deal with difficult people, including peers, lawyers, clients, litigants, and defendants? And we're going to start with Mr. Brown first.
Thank you. Actually, I've been taught a very valuable lesson from my wife for 37 years, how to deal in difficult situations, is I take a pause. You don't react. Reaction is a killer of civility. You react too soon, you're not thinking. You don't see that person and understand, why are they angry? Why are they hurting? First off, you see the person, then you can understand. Sometimes it's unwarranted, sometimes there's something there. And I think that's very important. So I think you develop the ability to not react, to listen, and just understand it's not directed towards you. It's not directed towards the court. It's directed to either a misunderstanding, someone not having the ability to think they're able to communicate their concerns, or someone thinking they're not being heard. So that escalates. So you de-escalate that. And yes, in 27 years, I ran into a lot of difficult people, and I believe we weathered that very well. I thank my wife for teaching me that, and my children for teaching me that. It is a lesson learned, and it is a lesson I will bring to the court. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Hyde?
Well, difficulties can arise for many different reasons, and we can't assume that difficulties arise because the other person is wrong or the other person is the problem. Sometimes the way we deal with people is a problem. And so it takes for us to look at what we are doing first. We examine ourselves first to see where we stand and what we are doing. We make sure that we're conducting ourselves civilly, respectfully, with decorum. And that can be hard, particularly when the other person is not behaving in that way. But sometimes when these battles happen and they get heated, I think we have to acknowledge the other person's feelings, acknowledge what they are trying to communicate. And I think when people feel heard, they feel respected, then sometimes we can de-escalate some of the issues that we have.
Thank you both. All right, so we're going to move into a lightning round. For the next set of questions, just simply raise your hand if your answer is yes. First question, have you or are you in the process of being disciplined in one form or another by the Florida Bar? Not one of our candidates, which is a plus. Have you ever received training to help deal with behavioral and mental health issues for one of your clients? No. Ms. Hyde?
Maybe.
Well, this is a qualified answer. I have received training to deal with behavioral and mental health issues by the Mental Health Association of Southeast Florida. I was a part of a 2-day training, and I'm certified to deal with survivors of suicide loss as well. So,
Okay, thank you. Do you have experience with criminal cases, especially misdemeanors? Okay, Mr. Brown. And have either of you dealt with diversion programs within the county court system? Okay, none of our candidates. All right, so we're going to move back over to our 1-minute questions. What one aspect from your personal background and one aspect from your professional background do you feel qualify you to be a judge, and why? And we're going to start with Ms. Hyde first.
well, my personal and professional background really overlap, and that's really just one of the reasons why I moved to Broward County. I was living in New Jersey and working in New York and not really able to handle both well. I moved to Broward County so that I could be involved in the community and also have my own practice. So when I came to Broward County, I opened my own practice. I have a family law practice, and I also volunteer with the Florida Guardian Ad Litem program. I have a special heart for the vulnerable, the children who are the subject of, being abandoned, abused, or neglected, who they come into the state system, because oftentimes they're overlooked by the system because people are either just overwhelmed. And so I am certified with the Florida Guardian Ad Litem program to go into the homes and to advocate and come into the courts for the best interests of these children. And in doing so, I also take a look at my own family situation, and I see that people are in this court system who are having these family issues are not bad people. They just need guidance.
Thank you. And Mr. Brown.
Right. Well, obviously, I mentioned it earlier, my personal background. I've been heavily involved in Make-A-Wish Foundation. Our family has Special Olympics. And when you see the beauty of every human being and you deal at that level, you understand. And like I always said, I was taught more by my disabled child than I learned from any book. You learn more. So I bring that to the bench, just the empathy, just the simplicity of life, understanding in every human being that light that exists, I think is very important. So I bring that to the bench, and I think that's a very strong trait that I have. Professionally, I've been practicing law for 27 years. I've been in every single courtroom. I know I've had jury trials. I think I'm the only candidate that's had jury trials in every single courtroom. County court, circuit criminal, federal court. I've seen the difference there. I've seen the difference a good judge can make. And I'm not, and when I've 27 years, I represent people. I don't so much represent corporations. I love helping people. I've done that, which means that I practice in pretty much a large diversity of law that probably is not, they call it door law sometimes. Whoever comes in, you try to help them, but it's given me the opportunity to really, thank you.
Thank you. You're good with that. Stop.
Oh, I learned fast.
Right on point. All right. So the last question of the evening. How would you deal with a pro se party appearing in your court? Mr. Brown.
Okay. It's actually pretty easy dealing with a pro se party in the courtroom because it's county court, it's the people's court. It's designed to be the people's court. So basically, the law says that everybody has to follow the same law. But if they don't understand what that law is, they don't understand procedure. This is the biggest thing you see in courts. You see some poor guy trying to convince the judge of something. They're not saying the magic words that will get them to the next level. I think as a judge, it's on you to make sure that that person is heard and that person understands what's there. So you may have to basically explain what you're looking for from the individual and have the patients to understand they don't understand where they're at. It could be the first time they were ever in a courtroom. So I think that's kind of natural to me. I can do that. I'm good at explaining things. I really enjoy that. And I do not get frustrated easily. So I would deal that way. You just deal compassionately. You see them who they are. And in county court, we have a great opportunity in county court because there the judges can make the biggest difference. It's a little different in felony court, but county court, we really have a great opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. And last but not least, Ms. Hyde.
I have had the opportunity to deal with thousands of people before me on the bench as a civil traffic hearing officer. That is a quasi judicial role where I am appointed by the chief judge to hear these cases. So most people who come into court on these tickets are not represented. And therefore, it is my job to make sure that they understand the process. It's my job to make sure that I'm not speaking in acronyms. I'm not talking about the PNC, the CMC. I am speaking in plain language so that they understand. You should understand too that in traffic court, we don't have a court interpreter. We're not given one. So people come to court. I've had to be patient with them as we try to communicate in different ways. I've had people come to court with different disabilities, and I've had to also be patient as well in dealing with them. So I will educate, I will show patience, and I will be fair, just as I do with the attorneys that come to court as well too. Just because an attorney is in court doesn't mean that an attorney is experienced and knows what he or she is doing.
Thank you. Okay, so we're going to move into our closing statements. You will have 1.5 minutes each. Ms. Hyde, you will begin.
In May, when I first started to print my materials to run for county court judge, my motto was justice for all. And a friend of mine said, nobody believes in that. So what are you really doing? Because that's not what happens here. And I had the idea that I am not going to be cynical, because when we say those things, equality and justice for all, it is something that we are striving towards. And when people lose confidence in our court system, we are mandated by the canons to ensure that that confidence is restored. I'm not saying that there are not good judges that are on the bench. I'm not saying that Broward County is not known for handling cases properly. But when things happen, we need to make sure that that confidence is restored. I think the public can be confident that I will educate, I will be fair, I will show patience, and I will lead our judicial system closer towards achieving the ideal of justice for all.
Thank you, Ms. Hyde. And Mr. Brown.
Thank you. I want to thank you guys before I get into this, because I don't want at the end of to lose that time. You guys and the League of Women Voters have been around for a long time, got a great history. A testament to the success that you had is in the county court system, 60% of the judges are women, and they're excellent judges. And I think that's a testament to the good work you've done. And what have I done in my campaign? A county court judge is countywide. I've reached out to every single group that will invite us, that will have us in to talk to them, because I believe firmly that if the whole community, everybody in Broward County isn't feeling comfortable to vote for you as a judge, then you're doing something wrong. So I'm very proud that I've reached out to everyone. I'm very inclusive when it comes to that. I honor and support every organization that I've spoken with. I've been endorsed by the Sun Sentinel. I have been endorsed by the Hispanic Vote. I've been endorsed by the FOP, the firefighters, the FL-CIO. I mean, I've been endorsed by a lot of organizations, and what I'm really looking for is the full endorsement of the people of Broward County. Because if I did not believe that I was the most qualified after 27 years of jury trials, after my family involvement, after what we did, then I would not be running. And it means, and I know all the candidates that you heard tonight are excellent individuals, are excellent, and they're all qualified to be a judge. But I believe I'm uniquely qualified in the sense that, you know, my family background, what I've done in practice suits me well for the county court. My nature is helping people. I think it's a perfect situation for me. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you both. We also want to congratulate you both for making it to the November 8th elections. I know it's very important to both of you. Good luck to you both. I am Ruby Green, your moderator for the evening. I'm going to turn it back over to our Madam President, Monica Elliott.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ruby. And I want to thank all the judicial candidates, both the circuit court and county court, for participating in this forum. These judicial races are just as important as any other race that will be on the November 8th ballot. This forum was recorded, and the video you can view it on our Facebook page, and then we will also be uploading it to our YouTube channel. As mentioned previously, all the candidates were asked to respond to written questions posed by the league, and all did respond. These questions are slightly different from the questions you heard tonight. So the candidates' responses can be found at vote411.org. So be sure to tell your friends, families, neighbors, colleagues, everyone you know, that they still have a chance to learn about the candidates by viewing the video and by checking the candidate responses on Vote 411. Be an informed voter and vote in this election. Good night and thank you.